welcome to my channel. My name is George Schlacek, and my videos cover adventures of all sorts. But hey, now it's bicycle touring talk time. Episode 103 to be precise. We are cycling across Canada. The adventures in this series are from my 2017 coast-to-coast ride. I had just made it through the Greater Toronto area and ended the day stealth camping in a park near the shore of Lake Ontario just before it got dark. On Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017, I was off to an early start. Thankfully, the tent had stayed dry overnight and it took only minutes to get going. After only a short time of following the waterfront trail, I found a park in Oshawa with a gazebo and a picnic table overlooking the lake. This was the perfect spot to have breakfast while watching the sunrise over Lake Ontario. I had instant coffee and 2 large salami and cheese sandwiches.
Breakfast by the lake. I don't know even what town I'm in. I'm probably in Whitby or Oshawa. I found a perfect spot to have breakfast.
The waterfront trail continued for a while, rerouting me onto regular roads every so often and sometimes leaving me wondering if I had lost it completely. Some sections were good riding, while others were as ugly as it can get. At one point, I had a nuclear power plant directly on my right, while the 401 expressway and its traffic jam was on my left.
Yeah, this facility is patrolled 24/7 by armed responders. And I know they're not protecting the potato crops behind that fence. There's a nuclear power plant here. So this is the waterfront trail. There's a nuclear power plant on my right there. And there's the 401 expressway on the other side. Waterfront trail. Yeah, they really messed this up good.
It was interesting for me personally to pass a pile of rubble in an overgrown paved lot because of an old sign that I recognized. This had been the fifth wheel truck stop years earlier, once a popular spot with truckers, including myself. I had spent occasional nights and eaten many meals at the restaurant roughly a decade before during my trucking years. The weather turned hot and very humid. It was getting tougher to climb the hills, which were not really that steep, but surprisingly many. It was a challenge to stay hydrated. I stopped for an early lunch at another waterfront park before starting on a section of trail that had no parks for 26 kilometers. The trail was actually an old road, but there were almost no cars at all. Instead, I met a lot of cyclists, some of whom were on a coast-to-coast tour supported by a company named TDA Global Cycling. A lady by the name Jackie, who was in her 70s, told me much about it and how it had allowed her to keep long-distance cycling after her husband had passed away. It seems that supported tours are popular with a lot of people. I have never done one myself, but I can definitely understand the appeal. Just focus on the ride in a group of like-minded people while the company takes care of all the more stressful stuff. But I think that the downside could be the lack of flexibility that comes with a pre-planned route. I see it as another kind of bicycle touring that is quite expensive and not really my idea. but some might consider it ideal. What's your take on it? Have you ever done a supported tour? What was it like? I rode with some of the group for a while, and we had good conversations. There was a stop in Port Hope for ice cream, and then the trail turned into Highway 2, where I eventually lost the other riders. Highway 2 is pretty good because there's not that much traffic and there are bike lanes on and off. A nice perk is that it leads through a number of nice old towns. I made a stop to buy some groceries in Colborne and another in Brighton to have coffee and internet access at Tim Hortons. It was time to figure out where to go and to camp for the night. My search didn't come up with much, except for some camping resorts that would charge an arm and a leg for stuff I didn't need. Perhaps another night of stealth camping was on order. Before I moved on, I noticed that my water container was leaking, so I bought a new gallon of water at the No Frills across the parking lot. A while later, I stopped at a park in Trenton, at the waterfront. It was quite busy, but I found a picnic table and cooked my macaroni and chili, one of my favorites. I also had a kale salad from a kit I had bought. It was probably the best supper I had had in a while. By the time I was done, the sun was setting, so there was no way I was gonna get much further. Highway 2 crosses a bridge in Trenton. I rode around looking for a spot to set up camp when I came across a large park on the other side of the river. There were about 200 RVs all crammed into a parking lot. I decided to ask someone what this was all about and found out that they were all lining up for a jamboree that was to begin the next morning. This was perfect for camping. I could just blend in with the jamboree crowd. Nobody would care about a little tent set up in the grass next to the parking lot. I had lucked out and it felt great. After using the washroom at the park and chatting with a couple of ladies who were working there, I set up my tent in what seemed like the perfect spot. It wasn't exactly quiet in the park, but 140 kilometers of riding had got me tired enough to just lie down and pass out pretty much right away. I have to say that while Ontario isn't exactly the most bicycle-friendly province, it was surprisingly easy to get away with free camping. Or perhaps this was the case only because I had gotten so used to doing it? Whatever the case, it was great, not only for my budget but also for making great memories. Recently, someone commented on one of my Facebook posts about stealth camping that if you're concerned about being discovered, you're probably trespassing and shouldn't be there in the first place. I have a different take on that and make my decisions on the fly, usually avoiding someone's private property. But let me put it to you, where do you draw the line when it comes to stealth camping? I'll leave you with that thought and hope you'll hit the like button. This video is part of an ongoing series about the longest bicycle tour I've ever done. There are a lot of videos in it already.